how do we get the kids through their teen years?
You know, it takes a lot of work from the parents to be able to do that. We know that if we can reach the parents and educate them on the risks associated with substance abuse and even help them understand their role as a parent and how they can do that. You know, we're in a time right now where we have a lot of parents that are very bewildered as to how to parent, because the type of parenting that they received doesn't really work in today's society, but yet they haven't been given any alternatives. That very autocratic, you know, well, as long as you live in my house, it'll go by my rules, which is what my dad used to say. I had a very healthy fear of my dad, and so did most of my friends. That kept us out of a lot of trouble. But that doesn't really work today. And what parents need to understand is that never before in our society has the media and the culture had such an invasion into our very homes. I've had one mom at a parenting workshop say, I feel like it's trying to invade every window and every door into my home, and I don't know how I can build a wall around my house to protect my kids. And so that launches into a great discussion about building that awareness, strengthening those family bonds. Kids that are well bonded to their parents are far less likely to use drugs and alcohol than those kids that don't have those strong bonds. So it's all about educating the parents, equipping them with tools and techniques that they can use to strengthen those family bonds.
Absolutely, I agree, and I'm glad you mentioned about, you know, technology today, social media, all the access that our kids, you know, have today, and at the same opportunity we have to talk to them about, you know, their friends and the things they should do, we should also monitor, you know, the social media component.
Absolutely.
And which is, I'm glad that you touched on that. But besides that, what are the greatest risks facing our youth today?
Well, the greatest risks are going to be substance abuse, violence, and high-risk sex. Those are really the top three things that can really derail our kids and put them on a path that is not going to be good for their future.
Absolutely, and this is a perfect segue because we already touched on a few things. What can parents do to help reduce those risks?
Well, the main thing that they can do is educate themselves on those topics, especially with the substance abuse, and then spend some time talking with their kids. And this is not a one-time drug talk where we want them to sit down for an hour and go through the whole thing. The same thing with a sex talk or a violence talk. It's not a one-time thing. These topics, because they're so prevalent in our society, they need to just be woven into the fabric of our everyday family life, so that when things come up and we hear about them on the news, that we can incorporate that into our family discussions. Well, what do you think about, you know, that particular incident happening? And get the kids talking about it so that you can understand where they're coming from and what their foundational beliefs are. Okay, we have to transfer our beliefs and our values to our kids. This is something that used to happen sitting around the dinner table.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it doesn't happen like that anymore. So parents have to be more intentional about transferring those family values, transferring the family mission and vision onto their kids, and let them know that drugs and alcohol, high-risk sex and violence are not going to be a part of that.
You know, and that's perfect. And this is not a one-time thing. You know, this is perpetual education, perpetual awareness, because, you know, these dangers are around us all the time. You know, being a firefighter, we talk about fire safety, keep watching your kids around water, and then, you know, now that, you know, what's taking place now with people texting and being inattentive on the road, causing accidents. Theresa, can you tell our viewers what is meant by being an active parent?
Well, an active parent is, it's a style of parenting, but more than that, it's an evidence-based method of parenting. It's intentional and proactive in nature. Instead of waiting for a problem to crop up and then, you know, scrambling to try to react to that problem, the method is really anticipating possible problems, and inviting the participation of all the family members to talk about, possible solutions, brainstorm, well, how could we handle this? What's important, talk about the values like Kim was talking about, and then put a plan in place so that either the problem can be sidestepped and avoided, or if the problem does occur, the family will be better prepared to deal with it effectively so that they can move on and learn from it and deal with it positively. An example of that might be having a rescue plan in place. A parent could start a conversation with their child about a situation that if the child were to be in a risky situation, but yet they felt kind of embarrassed about calling their parents for a ride home, the parent could ask their child, what would you do in that situation? And really have a serious talk about what would work for that child. What would work so that that child could effectively deal with the situation and get themselves out of harm's way. These approaches, are very effective to deal with problems or avoid problems that relate to substance abuse, but they're really effective for any kind of problem that parents and children face.